You know what you need to do. You've done it before. You could probably do it right now if you wanted to, but you don't. And it's not because you're lazy. This isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about something else entirely. Something that happens in your brain when a task sits in front of you, fully within your ability, and you still can't bring yourself to start it. Most people call this procrastination, but that word doesn't really explain what's happening. It just gives it a name and makes you feel worse about it. The truth is, you avoid tasks you know how to do for reasons that have nothing to do with whether you're disciplined or capable. And understanding why this happens might be one of the most uncomfortable realizations you'll have about how your mind actually works. Let's start with the experience itself. You sit down at your desk. You open your laptop. The task is right there. Maybe it's an email you need to send. Maybe it's a report you need to finish. Maybe it's something around the house that would take 10 minutes if you just started. You know exactly how to do it. There's no confusion about the steps, no missing information, no skill you lack. It's just sitting there, waiting for you to begin. And instead, you check your phone, you get water, you reorganize your desk, you do anything except the thing you sat down to do. Here's what makes this so confusing. If someone asked you to do this same task for them, you might do it immediately. If it were urgent, you'd handle it without thinking. But when it's just you, sitting alone with a task you're fully capable of completing, something inside you resists. The common explanation is that you're being lazy, that you lack discipline, that you need to just push through and get it done. But research into human behavior suggests something very different is happening. Your brain isn't avoiding the task because the task is hard. It's avoiding the task because of what doing the task represents. When you sit down to complete something you know how to do, your brain isn't just processing the work itself, it's processing the emotional weight attached to it. And that weight is often much heavier than the task. Studies show that task avoidance is rarely about the difficulty of the action. It's about the emotional discomfort that surrounds it. And here's the part that makes this so invisible. The discomfort often has nothing to do with the task at all. You avoid sending that email not because writing it is hard, but because sending it makes the situation real. You avoid finishing the report not because you don't know what to write, but because completing it means it will be judged. You avoid the 10-minute task because starting it means admitting you've been putting it off. Your brain is trying to protect you from a feeling, not from effort. And the cruel part is this: the longer you avoid it, the heavier it becomes. What started as a simple task now carries the weight of guilt, shame, and self-criticism. So now you're not just avoiding the original discomfort, you're avoiding all the feelings you've attached to not doing it. This is why tasks you know how to do can feel harder than tasks you don't. A new challenge doesn't carry emotional history, it's just a problem to solve. But a familiar task you've been avoiding, that one comes with baggage. Think about the last time you finally did something you'd been putting off for days. The task itself probably took less time than you thought, maybe even less time than you spent thinking about not doing it. But the relief you felt afterward wasn't about the task being done, it was about not having to carry it anymore. Research into procrastination suggests that people often avoid tasks as a way to avoid negative emotions. But those emotions aren't always obvious. Sometimes it's fear of judgment. Sometimes it's fear of imperfection. Sometimes it's just the vague discomfort of being seen or being responsible. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. You might be avoiding a task because completing it means you're capable. And being capable means people will expect more from you. So your brain, in its strange logic, keeps you stuck to protect you from future pressure. This isn't conscious. You're not sitting there thinking, I'll avoid this so no one expects anything from me. But somewhere beneath your awareness, your mind is making calculations about safety and risk. And sometimes, staying still feels safer than moving forward. Let's bring this into the real world. You're at your desk. You need to update a document. You've updated 1,000 documents before. This one is no different, but you open a browser tab instead. What just happened? Your brain predicted discomfort. Maybe it's the discomfort of focusing. Maybe it's the discomfort of finishing and having nothing left to hide behind. Maybe it's just the vague unease of doing something that requires a small amount of mental energy when you're already tired. Your mind doesn't distinguish between physical threat and emotional discomfort. It just knows something feels bad, and it tries to move you away from it. So you end up scrolling, snacking, cleaning, anything that gives you a hit of relief or distraction. And the worst part? You're fully aware of what you're doing. You're watching yourself avoid the task. You're judging yourself for it. But you still can't seem to stop, because awareness doesn't override the emotional system. Knowing what you're doing and being able to change it are two very different things. Here's what people get wrong. They think the solution is to push harder, to force themselves, to use discipline like a hammer. But research suggests that increasing pressure often increases avoidance. because now you're not just avoiding the task, you're avoiding the feeling of failing at forcing yourself to do it. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's trying to keep you away from discomfort. The problem is, in modern life, most of the things we need to do aren't actually dangerous. They just feel uncomfortable. And your brain can't tell the difference. So what does this mean? Does it mean you're stuck? Does it mean every task you're capable of doing will always feel this hard? Not exactly. It means the difficulty isn't where you think it is. You're not struggling with ability, you're struggling with emotional regulation. And that's a very different problem. It also means that beating yourself up for avoiding tasks makes the problem worse, not better. Because now the task carries even more emotional weight. Now it's not just the task, it's the task plus your shame about not doing it, and your brain will avoid that even harder. This isn't an excuse, it's an explanation. And there's a difference. Understanding why you avoid tasks you know how to do doesn't make them easier, but it does remove the layer of self-blame that makes everything heavier. It lets you see the behavior for what it is, not a character flaw. Just a nervous system trying to avoid discomfort in the only way it knows how. You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're not broken. You're just carrying emotional weight you didn't realize was there. And sometimes, that weight is harder to move than the task itself.